The cops were standing in my driveway, their red and blue lights splashing across my porch like some twisted light show, and I was shaking so hard I could barely get my words out. Karen was screaming at the top of her lungs, pointing at me like I was the criminal in her personal soap opera, shouting that I had ruined her entire life. I remember standing there, watching her unravel in front of half the neighborhood, and thinking, how did it ever get this far? Over a few stolen packages. Before I explain what really happened, tell me honestly, what would you have done if someone in your HOA kept stealing your deliveries? Anyway, this all started long before cops were involved and long before Karen tried to flip the neighborhood against me. When I first moved into HOA Hill, things were peaceful, almost beautifully peaceful. The streets were lined with tall oak trees that created a kind of green tunnel whenever you drove in. Every morning, I'd sip my coffee on the porch and watch neighbors walking their dogs or watering their lawns. People waved. People smiled. It was the kind of place where everyone seemed to know everyone. I had moved there to get some quiet after years of living in a busy city. My job allowed me to work from home, and honestly, life felt good. I'd finally saved enough to buy a house that didn't feel like a shoebox, and I took pride in decorating it, tending the yard, and just enjoying the little routines that made me feel grounded. I wasn't looking for conflict. I wasn't looking for drama. I certainly wasn't looking for trouble. And then, there was Karen. I didn't know she was HOA Karen at first. She looked normal enough, late 50s, sharp bob haircut, permanently pressed khaki pants, and a face that always looked like she'd just smelled something unpleasant. The kind of neighbor who introduced herself not with a smile, but with a reminder about the HOA handbook. On my second day in the neighborhood, she walked straight across the street while I was unloading boxes. You know trash bins can't stay by the curb past 8 p.m., she said without even a hello. I blinked at her, smiled awkwardly, and said, "Ah yeah, I just moved in. Haven't even read the rules yet." "Well," she said, folding her arms. "Around here, we follow the rules. All of them." I told myself she was just one of those strict HOA types. Fine, whatever. But as weeks passed, I noticed she wasn't strict. She was obsessed. She patrolled the neighborhood like she was auditioning for HOA police chief. She snapped pictures of people's yards, measured their grass with a little ruler, reminded everyone of fines and violations like she enjoyed it. Still, I tried staying friendly. I kept things polite. I'm not the type who enjoys conflict. But Karen acted like my existence was a personal inconvenience. The first real conflict happened over my porch lights. I installed warm low-hanging lantern-style lights that matched my house. And the moment she saw them, she marched straight over. "These aren't HOA approved," she said, tapping her clipboard like she was "You need to remove them." I explained that I checked the guidelines and they were allowed. The brightness, the style, everything. But she insisted she had final approval. A week later, I got a warning letter from the HOA, signed by her. I fixed it, annoyed but still patient. But something about the way she smirked whenever she saw me afterward told me she wasn't done. And I was right. Packages started going missing. At first, it was little things. A replacement phone charger, a sweater I'd ordered online, some vitamins. I thought maybe porch pirates were around. It happens. I didn't jump to blame anyone. But then, larger items started disappearing. A toolbox set, a small home security camera, a new pair of shoes, even a book I'd been waiting weeks for. It wasn't random. It wasn't coincidence. It was targeted. I contacted the delivery companies, checked tracking numbers, confirmed everything was marked delivered. They insisted the items were left safely on my porch, except they weren't there. One morning, I looked at my door camera app, only to see nothing, no footage, just a blacked-out screen. I tried rebooting it. Dead, it had been unplugged from the inside. Someone would have had to walk right up to my porch and disconnect it. My gut told me exactly who. Still, I didn't want to accuse anyone without proof. I kept things quiet and decided to start paying more attention. One afternoon, while I was working from home, I heard a soft crunch on the gravel walkway. I peeked out the window, nobody. I waited. Then I heard the sound again. This time I saw a shadow move across the porch. I went to the door and opened it quickly. But the porch was empty. Only Karen's silhouette was visible just a few houses down, walking away briskly, holding something pressed against her side like she didn't want anyone to see it. My jaw tightened. My chest burned with anger. But I said nothing. I watched her disappear into her house. Then, the next day, a brand new package, a coffee grinder I really needed, vanished within an hour of delivery. That was it. The irritation turned into suspicion, suspicion turned into anger, and anger turned into determination. I needed proof. I ordered a tiny, camouflaged, motion-activated camera disguised as a fake garden rock. I placed it near the porch steps, angled perfectly toward the door. Then I ordered something big, something obviously appealing, something a thief wouldn't resist. A fancy limited edition kitchen appliance that cost almost $300. Except, I didn't actually buy it. I ordered the empty box from eBay for $10. It looked identical to the real product. Within 3 hours of the delivery truck pulling away, the fake box vanished. That night, I checked the footage. I will never forget the moment I saw her. Karen, marching right up to my porch like she owned the place, looking over her shoulder, bending down, taking the box, hugging it to her chest like she was entitled to it, then casually walking back to her house, not scared, not sneaky, not worried, confident. Confident because she'd done this before and gotten away with it. I was shaking with rage, but also relief. I finally had proof. But I didn't want to just confront her. She'd deny it, lie, twist things. And the HOA board, full of her friends, would back her like loyal soldiers. I needed a plan that would expose her publicly, in a way she couldn't escape. The turning point came when I remembered something the previous homeowner told me during the final walkthrough. He mentioned that Karen used her position on the HOA to borrow unlocked Amazon packages whenever she wanted something. Borrow, he said, with air quotes. He even hinted that she got caught once but managed to hide it from the board. That detail stuck with me, so I crafted a plan. I printed screenshots from the camera footage, but instead of showing them privately, I wanted maximum impact. HOA Hill had a monthly meeting. One Karen always led, always controlled, always dominated. And that meeting was coming up in 2 days. I arrived early, sat in the back, and waited. Neighbors trickled in, chatting about lawns, pets, and fence colors. Karen stood proudly at the front table in her neat little blazer, tapping her pen like she was about to preside over a courtroom hearing. She started the meeting with her typical bossy tone. First order of business. Violations. Many of you are still failing to follow community guidelines. I raised my hand. Yes, she snapped, annoyed. I have something to share, I said calmly. This is not the time for personal. It's about community safety. I interrupted, keeping my voice steady. The entire room turned toward me. Karen frowned, but reluctantly gestured for me to continue. I walked to the front, set my phone on the projector table, and tapped play. The video appeared on the screen. My porch, the box, the quiet moment, and then Karen, crystal clear, walking up, picking up the package, and walking away with it. Gasps echoed around the room. Karen froze. Her face drained of color. For the first time since I'd met her, she looked absolutely powerless. That's fake, she stammered. Edited. He edited that. I pulled out my phone and showed the original file. Date, time, motion sensor activation, metadata, everything solid. Neighbors started whispering fiercely. A few of them exchanged looks like they'd suspected something for years. That's not all, I said, pulling out a folder. Here are tracking confirmations for 8 missing packages. All delivered, all gone. And here, I held up a printed screenshot, is footage of my door camera being unplugged. I didn't need to say who did it. Everyone saw the arm, the sleeve, the bracelet, the same bracelet Karen always wore. The room erupted into chaos. Karen lunged toward me, yelling, "You set me up. You tricked me. I'm the victim here." But before she could get close, 2 board members stepped between us. "Karen," one of them said quietly, "we need to ask you to leave. I am the HOA president." She shrieked. "Not anymore," he replied. That was the moment she snapped. Completely, she stormed out of the meeting, screaming about conspiracies and ungrateful neighbors. But word traveled fast. By the next morning, the entire neighborhood knew everything. And that's when Karen crossed the final line. She called the cops on me. She told them I had set traps, that I was harassing her, that I was planning to destroy her reputation. She screamed in the driveway, claiming I hacked her cameras, stalked her, even threatened her. Completely fabricated lies. But the police had already seen the footage. They'd already received statements from multiple neighbors who admitted they'd also lost packages over the years but never had proof. And when the officers asked Karen to show them the package she stole, the empty fake box, she refused. Then, accidentally admitted she had taken it by mistake. They cuffed her for theft, trespassing, and tampering with a security device. That's where the story began. Karen, screaming in my driveway, blaming me for everything, insisting I had masterminded some evil plot against her. She kept saying, "You'll regret this. You hear me? You'll regret this." But I wasn't afraid. Not anymore. I just watched her get placed in the police car, still yelling, still pointing at me, still living in a world where she was the hero. The neighborhood watched too. Some stood with arms crossed. Some shook their heads. Some whispered among themselves. For the first time, people weren't scared of her. They were done with her. After the cops drove off, a strange silence fell over the street. My hands were still trembling, but my heart felt free. Like a weight I didn't know I was carrying had finally been lifted. In the days that followed, the HOA board voted her out completely. She lost her position, her influence, her power over everyone, and she moved out within a month, quietly, without the usual drama, without the usual smugness. Life in the neighborhood slowly returned to the peaceful place it had once been. People started waving more. Conversations grew warmer. Packages stayed exactly where they were delivered. And every time I see a box sitting safely on my porch, now, I can't help but smile a little. Not because I enjoy what happened to Karen, but because I learned something important. Sometimes the people who scream the loudest about rules are the ones breaking them the most. And sometimes, all it takes is one well-placed camera and a fake $300 kitchen appliance box to bring the truth out into the light. Thank you for watching.